What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 690 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. I'm Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
I'm putting that 0 in 690.
Yeah, I'll meet you with the 69 part.
Maybe you should talk to your wife first.
We are going to break down all the things we feel like talking about in the world of pro wrestling that happened in the past few days, as per usual. So we always want to know what you have to say too. So if you're on Facebook, Twitter, listening to this on Amazon Music or Spotify or anything along those lines, find a way to let us know what your thoughts are, including the Discord server. It's a great way for you to chat it up at any point during the week. Make sure if you are on YouTube, hit that like button, ring that notification bell, make sure you are subscribed. Click on the join button as well and the thanks button. Get yourself some email alerts and everything set up that we have for the Darkcast here, the Patreon stuff. It's all kind of tied in together. You should know how it is by now. If you don't know what it is, you can't figure it out, then let me know and I'll leave you some kind of extra explanation below.
You speak English.
I do. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can get some merchandise. Thank you to the people that have been buying my stuff on Mango Tees past few days. I wish I wouldn't have to have designs that say things on like political stuff on there, but hey, I'll take a $2 extra thing every once in a while. All that stuff's greatly appreciated. It all helps out to fund Fanboys Anonymous and Smark Out Moment. It's been way too long since I've done anything for Fanboys, but I would love to.
It's okay. Look, we got James Bond news. We got a lot of things we can do on Fanboys.
Yeah, James Bond, maybe gonna go to hell. I don't know. I'm worried about Amazon screwing the pooch when it comes to that.
To be clear, that's not like the plot of the next
No, it's not like Jason Goes to Hell. Like James, it better not be. Let's put it that way. If they end up doing a whole like, oh, we should do that. Like, we should twist the genre or something.
I do think it's very telling that Barbara Broccoli said, I don't like referring to it as content. And there was a falling out, and they said, screw it, we'll buy you out. And then they did.
And then they just said, okay, well, look what happened with George Lucas did that. That's what I'm saying. I don't need the Disney Star Wars version of James Bond, even though No Time to Die was disappointing.
You're absolutely getting that.
Yeah, I know. I'm setting myself up for massive disappointment with that. Just kind of like I'm setting myself up for this WrestleMania to be a WrestleMania of sort of meh. And one of the main topics that we can talk about here before we get into like some of the smaller ones, we might as well dive into one of the big ones here. The Rock is going to be on SmackDown tomorrow night. And you not only called attention to that to me because I wasn't paying attention to like the news cycle at like 9:00 on a fucking Thursday night. By the way, we're recording this at 11:47, so I shouldn't really talk about that, but still. But you also sent along this press release thing about this, where it says, strap in, said WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Triple H Levesque, when the final boss shows up at this time of the year, the audience knows absolutely anything is possible. Everything could change in an instant.
They're leaning into it so hard, which I appreciate. Look, I'm cynical for many things. One thing I am not cynical towards is WWE knows that even the most loyalist of fans are afraid of them just changing everything at the drop of a hat. And it's literally been said for months. Rock's probably not wrestling, but anything can change at a moment's notice if it's Rock's wishes. Personally, I don't think he's doing anything. I think I don't know where they are tomorrow, but
they are in New Orleans.
Oh, he's announcing WrestleMania. He's announcing WrestleMania 42.
That could very well be what it is. And
okay, he's doing that. Okay.
I look at it this way. And spoilers for anybody that reads my Ring Report post about it tomorrow. There are basically three potential options here. Number one, he somehow retcons everything that he ruined on January 6th and ends up being like, Yeah, you know what? I actually am still pissed about Cody, or like I do want to do something with opposite Roman or whatever. Highly, highly unlikely that that's the case.
Retconning January 6th is very in vogue right now. So.
I wish we could retcon that. Yeah, in some ways. Number 2, he pivots and he ends up doing something related to Solo Sikoa, which I think would be a massive mistake because clearly at this point, if you're going to salvage the mess of what this WrestleMania is turning out to be, you got to do Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. It shouldn't be The Rock involved. And I don't think that that's a strong enough story anyway, so I really highly doubt that it's something along those lines. And then number 3, what's the last time that we saw him do? He popped up on NXT and said, I don't know what to do, and then was like, man, I'm here. All right, well, I am here, and I'm here, so I'm here. And then that ended the show.
Kind. You're being far too kind. That man went on network television and just said, fuck these people, and these people are trying to wrap me up. Fuck that. We're going all fucking night. Like
we're going all night, and by that I mean, I guess I should leave.
And then he just says, hey, wasn't Flex Kavana a stupid name? Anyway, we're here and you're here, and you don't need to be here because NXT roster sucks, but you're here because you're wrestling fans. It's like that man rambled and like simultaneously lifted everybody up while crapping on them. It's wild that The Rock can do what The Rock can do. But now that I know they're in New Orleans, my money's on. He comes out at the start of the show and says, I love your energy, yada, yada, yada. We're bringing WrestleMania back to New Orleans at the Superdome. I almost said Silverdome. For WrestleMania 42.
That's probably what's going to happen.
I mean, look, if we get another I'm The Rock, I just felt like coming here, LOL, boots to asses, poontang pie, like, I'm going to be pissed. If he decides that he wants to, like, tell Jacob Fatu that he doesn't need to be listening to Solo, that'd be cool, you know, to actually serve purpose with his appearance. But I think he's just there to be like, because let's think
it's great to be here in New Orleans. You know, it would be really great if we took it up a notch the next time that we come here. We won't just be SmackDown, we'll be WrestleMania.
Because remember, they did say that New Orleans is the likely front runner, and we were going to hear about it before Mania this year. So it checks out. It's just annoying that it's like people hate Triple H for the whole I don't want to be on TV, guys, and then he shows up on TV and he's like, look at how amazing everything is that I am in charge of.
Yeah.
But like The Rock shows up to usurp him and just be like, hey, I'm The Rock and I'm on the board of directors now and I technically run this place. Anyway, isn't it great that we're in the Netflix era? And by the way, WrestleMania. See ya, everybody. I'm leaving for 6 months. I understand it, and I think that's what he's doing. It's only frustrating to me because this dude pivoted last year, gave us great TV, set up another year of ills, showed up at Bad Blood to continue that, and then just said, nah.
Yeah. Or, like, you mean to tell me you didn't have your filming schedule ahead of time with that? You know that WrestleMania is around late March or April every single year. It always is. It always has been. Hopefully it always will be.
I don't know anymore.
And it's like, I don't know if I could do yeah, you do. You're choosing not to.
Well, it's like John said, I'm giving my entire calendar to WWE, right? And then what did he say after the Rumble?
Right. I'm going to go away for a little bit.
Film a movie. Like, what?
It's ridiculous. Okay. It's bullshit that nobody fucking says anything anymore. I'm getting a little too flustered. That's why you should listen to Smark at Moment more. Because I fucking just say what it is. Rob just says what it is. Like, I hate it. So
I like that you got flustered that quick.
yeah, it's just, I hate the world.
Just the thought of corporate speech just got you.
You'll never hear me do corporate speak and any kind of bullshit. I don't do that in situations where I should. Like,
I mean, arguably, there's a huge argument that can be made here that we should be a little more corporate speak and a little more professional here.
yeah, fuck that.
We're just like, no, this is us talking amongst friends, and fuck that. Like,
yeah, no, fuck all that. I do not apply that to any part of my life, and I hate it when people do. So, The Rock being there tomorrow, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, he's going to go after Cody, and then it's going to be him and Cody and Mania. That's not going to completely undo everything of an Elimination Chamber.
He would have to take out someone from the chamber. I'd be more into that. I'd be more into the idea if he came out and was just like, I'm flexing my power and
flexing my Kavana.
yeah. And I'm making Solo versus Cody for the WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber. Do I think Solo's going to win? No. But as I'll say probably on every podcast until Mania, I think it's bullshit that we're just in this era where, despite there being more content than ever before, nobody's defending their titles anymore.
That's weird.
Like, why are we just like, yep, it's Cody because he won at the Rumble, and we'll see you in 3 months with the WWE Championship match of probably Cody versus whoever, probably Cena. You know, like, that's stupid. Make him fight Solo at the Chamber. Or make him fight Jacob at the Chamber. I don't care who he fights.
I mean, I could see that happening more of next week on SmackDown instead of booking it for Chamber, because I think the Chamber at this point is starting to get pretty filled up.
With what?
They've got the 2 Chamber matches. They've got the tag match. And then...
And
what's the other match?
There's no other match.
I thought that there was a 4th one.
You could look it up. I'm pretty sure there isn't.
There probably isn't. I'm probably just imagining that there was another one.
There's 2 chamber matches and Trish Stratus in a tag match.
Yeah, so then maybe they should just add that in there. If that's, I mean, obviously they need more than 3 matches because the Elimination Chamber is not going to go on as long as the Royal Rumble, and the Royal Rumble had 5. So, or they could just cut it short. I mean, I'd be okay with a pay-per-view just being 3 matches if they cut it short, but they won't do that.
They did 4 at the Rumble, and it was still long. I'm looking it up on.
I mean, I don't want Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes again, but it seems like they're fucking doing it. So.
My apologies. There is a 4th match, although it's not sanctioned. Kevin Owens will play Sami Zayn.
Yeah, so one more match that they add to it, most likely. Now, that could just be Cody and Solo, which, again, I don't want to see that again. I don't know why they're reverting back to that.
Or, do Cody versus Solo versus Jacob. Make it seem like, hey, titles in jeopardy. You know, like, I don't know why that's not a thing that they're doing.
Make it, I think more likely if you're going to go for like a title that is like in jeopardy, I think you put Shinsuke on the card.
Well, but even that, like, why?
It could be Shinsuke versus LA Knight. We might get around to that.
Yeah, but why is that the match? Like, he's been champion for how long, and you're just circling back to the guy he beat without really having him. I could go.
That's Shinsuke. Yeah, that's what they do with Shinsuke all the time.
No,
I don't know why.
It's what they do with everybody. Like, again, this company in the modern era does 2 stories. I am heel part-time champion. Ha ha ha. I am better than you because I don't have to work. I am babyface champion. Ha ha ha. I am so moral and I'm going to defend all the time. And by that, I mean, I will have 8 meaningless championship matches and we're going to like beat it into your head that they're meaningless because they don't involve Roman Reigns or anyone of actual, ability to possibly beat me, and also the only time anybody can beat me is Mania or SummerSlam. I want so bad for the formula to change. The formula needs to change in this company.
Absolutely. They got way too used to the idea of like go back in time. We always joke about Brock Lesnar winning the match against The Undertaker and beating the streak was like, set us on the wrong timeline. That also led to the title reign that became, well, it's perfectly fine for somebody to have the championship and do nothing for a while. And they learned the wrong lessons from so many different things. The whole world has been learning the wrong lessons.
I'll say this. I do like that at least now they treat everyone equally, and it's not like, well, Brock have to defend, but you do, random person. Roman doesn't have to defend, but you do. So I appreciate that we've gotten around to the fact that everyone's equal. I just don't like that it's led to more content with less meaning. We're going in the wrong order. It should be, more content, more meaning, or even less content, more meaning.
Well, speaking of content, one of the things that happened over the past couple of days was the premiere of WWE Legends and Future Greats. Did you get a chance to check it out?
Well, let me tell you something. Speaking of content, there's too much of it, and no, I didn't. I was watching. I have no shame in saying this. I'll get around to it eventually. But I was watching Lewis Black comedy specials, of which I sent several to you because I felt like laughing instead of watching WWE LFG.
I would recommend LFG to people that are interested in seeing another Tough Enough in a lot of ways. It's not as crisp in the sense that there is a competitive element to it that they did not really do a good job advertising ahead of time, nor did they really advertise well enough within the episode, if I'm being honest. To me, this felt like 3/4 of an episode and that they're missing the other quarter. It ended earlier than I thought that it should. And spoiler alert when it comes to this, but I don't think anybody's really going to care. The setup for LFG was we're going to introduce, Shawn Michaels is going to be talking to the 4 coaches, Bubba Ray, Booker T, Mickie James, and Undertaker. And he's going to explain the concept in a way that they clearly already know, but we're just doing it for the cameras. You know what I mean? So he goes like, hey, we got this idea. We're going to do this thing and you guys are going to have this, whatever. And he explains that they are going to be given 2 men and 2 women each to be on their teams. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then they start kind of showing off a little bit about the performance center. They go through some of the people, not everybody, but they kind of spotlighted a few people. And everybody is just coaching everybody. And I was just like, that's a little weird. I thought the whole point was that they get assigned 2 men and 2 women. And they eventually say, we're going to choose 2 men and 2 women to have a match. And then after the match, the 4 judges, aka coaches, are going to pick who they thought did the best. And then that person, that 1 man and 1 woman, are going to pick their own coach. So, again, spoilers. I don't think anybody really is going to care that much, but if you do care, skip forward 3 minutes or something. Tyra May Steele and I don't remember the other girl ended up having a match. Anthony Luke had a match with Shiloh Hill. And they ultimately decided Tyra May Steele and Anthony Luke were the 2 people that they wanted to allow to pick their coach. Anthony Luke picked Booker and Tyra May picked Taker, I think. Yeah, I think she picked Taker.
That would make the most sense. Given the options, why wouldn't you go the guy who's been here 30 years and can do no wrong? Okay, wrestling is fake, right? But if it wasn't, wouldn't you be like, man, I need the Undertaker?
The guy that signed a 20-year deal recently or something.
if I can get under the learning tree of the Undertaker, I might be golden. Like
forever.
that's the logic. Anything else has to come down to like you would have to tell the story of, well, I'm such a big fan of the TLC matches that I have to pick Bubba Ray. Because otherwise, who the fuck is picking Bubba Ray Dudley? Like,
Yeah. Now, like a lot of the women might be like, oh, I want to pick Mickey because she has like a unique perspective of the way that women need to go through the system. But you can only have 2 men and 2 women. So only one other woman is going to be assigned to Mickey. And she's going to have, 2 men. But I don't know what they're doing as far as being assigned all the other people because they'll
probably just keep doing matches.
That would be crazy to me because that by the time you do that, after a while, like by the whole season's over. And then,
now that you've explained the concept, you can knock out a couple of quick matches on the next episode or 2, and then everybody's got their coaches, and the entire basis of it is going to be, ooh, there's drama because Xena Sterling mouthed off to the Undertaker.
Well, I'm thinking what they're going to do is they'll do 2 more people that get assigned, like they get to assign themselves their own coach, and then it'll be okay. Well, that we've got 4 people that have been picked throughout that, and it might end up being, hey, pick Mickey, hey, pick Bubba, so that they each have one, because they can manufacture this shit.
Yeah, I understand
I
understand that, but it's...
And then I think that the other ones get assigned to them, but they didn't explain any of it, so it's kind of just weird to me. Like
I'm interested in it. It sounds like it's fun. It sounds like it's The Voice, but wrestling. And there's fun elements there. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's a shame they couldn't get this show on the CW.
Yeah.
Where more people would watch.
Or Netflix.
Where more people would watch.
Yeah. Because it's on A&E, and
who watches A&E besides wrestling fans at this point?
Yeah. A&E is one of those networks that, like, in the heyday of TV, like, we went from TV having like 5 channels, period, to, okay, well, we've got quite a bit of channels. If you add cable, like we might have like 20 channels, 30 channels. And then cable exploded and it became like, why do we have 3 home and garden networks? And like, what do we have? 10 Spanish only religious channels. And like, you know what I mean? Where it would just be like, who the hell's watching the science offshoot channel that's running like, I don't know, local high school programs at 3 a.m? Like, who the fuck's watching this stuff?
So I will give you a fun little story. Because I'm me, I became like obsessed with, especially if you live in New York, if you were flipping through channels back in the day, you were bound to find some form of wrestling. Whether it was like, oh man, I found, Lucha Libre on the Spanish channel, or like sometimes late at night, public access, you'd find the worst indie ever. But you found it. And like, so I'm the person who would be like, oh fuck, public access TV, yes. But like, during the heyday of TV, when these channels actually had purpose, right? Like the Discovery Channel was actually nature and not reality TV.
MTV was music videos, and that was the only place you could see the music videos other than potentially VH1.
A&E's bread and butter was like this documentary style programming about, icons or just random historic people, celebrities or whatever. And then it became like Cops or whatever it is, the show.
It's like any other channel. Like, it used to be that you'd get like Fox would be like, okay, this is the block of this type of show on this night. This is, TGIF with ABC or whatever. And eventually it just becomes, can we do any kind of like cheap reruns of stuff? Because again, it's the same as like a lot of other things in the world. Everybody's like, can I do nothing and get paid everything? And
well, I think in hindsight, and then we'll move on after this, but I do think it's an interesting discussion. The strike of '08.
Fanboys Anonymous content, everybody.
the writer's strike is what made this happen. Everybody went, oh, we don't want to fuck pay these writers. Fuck these writers because we want to do nothing and get paid everything. And we can just do reality television. And if we can force it to fit our little niche, so the learning channel is now my 600-pound life all day.
Or as I call it, my 10,000-pound ass.
Well, you've merged two shows there.
I don't know any of the names of those shows that Caroline watches. She just watch all these TLC shows. She watches some of them, and I just know I refer to them as my 10,000-pound ass. Little People, Big Problems. It sucks to be Amish. It's what I call the one show. I think that they're like Mormons or something, but I'm like, I just refer to it as it sucks to be Amish. Like,
yeah, but
there's like the sister, like the group to like polygamy people or something.
Sister Wives. That's the Mormon show.
I forget what I called that one. It was something like gotta have a lot of wives or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
the A&E is the type of thing that like I don't know anybody that really watches traditional cable as it is anymore, let alone the more niche channels. And I can't imagine WWE audiences being the group that's going to be like, you know what I like? Pro wrestling and documentaries.
But that's where you're wrong, because look at where we are right now. Pro wrestling is becoming one of the only dependable forms of content. Look at whether it's Max going all in on AEW, whether it's WWE, going into Tubi or fucking A&E. Like, WWE is one of the only machines that just pumps out content, and they were doing it long before it was cool to just pump out meaningless content. So like, wrestling is becoming even more of a staple of whatever's left of the traditional TV diet.
But I do.
Fanboys Anonymous.
Yeah. If you like this kind of discussion, everybody, keep in mind we have Fanboys Anonymous. We could just go on deep dives about like, hey, how great was it when we used to have networks that did their own thing and all. But I recommend checking out LFG for anybody that liked Tough Enough. But maybe because Tough Enough seasons felt differently, I think, between each one. Like the Paige era did not feel the same as like the Stone Cold and was it Trish and Booker or whatever, with like the girl that was like a Miss Universe or something was on it. And ended up like going nowhere.
That's what
was that the Silent Rage?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what you remember from that. Like,
I just remember like certain people popping up and doing almost nothing.
You don't remember probably the most iconic moment in Tough Enough history? My favorite match was with Melina and Alicia Fox.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Stone Cold is just like, what?
Was that Alicia's sister that said it?
No, it was the fucking the Cameron. It was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
because Alicia's sister was on that season, wasn't she?
And then she's the only one that gets like anywhere. Like,
right.
She's the first one out after saying that, and she's the only one who gets signed and goes somewhere. Like, so there's that, and that's a completely different show from the
Paige
and yeah, that one
Brian
was a wild season.
And that, then, produces like Mandy Rose and Velveteen Dream, unfortunately. And then
Sonya Deville,
people like ZZ who never went anywhere. But like those shows feel different, and LFG feels different from that.
And none of them compare to MTV's Tough Enough, which was actually
that was the most fun. Yeah.
doing like a real world style reality show.
Yeah. So this is like a little bit like the MTV version of it, but they do have some things that are updated a little bit more. Like you mentioned, like it kind of feels like a little bit like The Voice in some ways.
So I have a question. What do you think of the matches, and what do you think of the commentary team of Vic Joseph and Jeremy Borash?
You know what's funny? I didn't realize that it was Borash.
What do you think it was?
It just didn't dawn on me that that person was talking, because what's weird about it is the commentary, and I like this when I say it's weird, but I like it. The commentary is them acting like they're commentating on a match, but instead of them talking about the match, they're talking about how they're putting the match together and what they're doing in it. Like, you know, we're watching like tomorrow night's going to be like Jimmy Uso versus Drew McIntyre. They're going to be saying things like, McIntyre hits a such and such, you know, he's got to make sure that he keeps on Jimmy because Jimmy's going to fire back and, you know, whatever. Drew McIntyre is probably nervous about the fact that LA Knight is ringside. Like, they're going to tell the story there. The story of how they were telling the things here, they're going over like Anthony Luke versus Shiloh Hill. And they're like, now, if I'm Anthony Luke, I might want to pick Booker as my coach. Oh, Shiloh Hill, they were saying ahead of time that he wasn't showing enough personality. Well, maybe if he shows them in the ring that he's able to. And they are talking about it as if they're commentating on a reality show about putting on a great performance more so than any of the moves. Like, they don't go, and that's a nice drop kick from so-and-so. And it took me a second to get used to it, but then I was like, that's such a refreshing change of pace.
I like that.
So I recommend that for everybody. I say, go ahead and check that out. Tangentially from this, it's not the same show. It's not the same thing, whatever. But another thing that came out that's in that like rookie performance center thing is that we see the WWE ID Championship title belts that they created. Triple H put a picture out on social media with like the women's belt, which obviously you can tell is women's belt because it's got the white strap. Men's belt, they look exactly the same. The only difference being the strap colors and then the word women's above the thing.
not the designs per se, but just that idea of
but
like
the white strap women championships.
Yeah, because the white strap IC belt is a beautiful thing, and it just now means women's title.
White equals women's WW. That's the WW. White Women's Entertainment Television Championship is what they're going for.
That sounds like quite a few reality.
It's probably some kind of awful network. Yeah.
Yeah. What the? No, the belts are fine. They're nice designs. I'm wildly curious to see how much of this is gonna stick, because they got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, the Evolve is coming out on the 5th. So
because they're doing so many, they got Evolve. They've got this LFG thing. They've got these WWE ID things that could be any indie anywhere. They've got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, and I'm wondering if they're just going to be like, you know what? I actually only want to eat the apple one, and then the rest of them just kind of go to the side.
Quick snack talk. What is your go-to pie?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin?
Yeah,
I respect that. So at some point I gotta make a snack talk graphic that just pops up on the screen every time we start getting into that.
and your go-to pie?
I immediately always think if I could have some kind of like chocolate peanut butter pie, like a Hershey's Reese's pie or something.
Yeah,
but if we're going like traditional pies, we're going pumpkin. I do not like apple, cherry, like any of that. That's too dry. Coconut custard's pretty good though. I like coconut custard.
To be clear, if we're into the Brian Regan, we're confused.
Yeah, we can't say pizza pie. Yeah,
you know, it's any form of pizza pie trumps these other pies. But you know,
well, you reminded me, and I gotta add these to the list too, because it's just like I keep having to add more championships across the board. But I'm like, all right, well, on my list of title reigns 2025, I don't have down yet the ID championships and the Evolve. Is the Evolve, it's just going to be one championship, just men's? Or is it going to be like a men's and a women's?
If there's championships and they're not just using these ID belts, that it'll be an Evolve men's and an Evolve women's and an Evolve tag.
Because supposedly there's an Evolve championship, right? And I would assume the ID one...
Do you mean like the original one? Like the one from Evolve?
So I've seen reports saying about that there's a championship for Evolve.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Because, look, they're being very clear with these Evolve commercials. Hey, these people might get to NXT and then maybe one day Raw and SmackDown. They're not like, oh, come see the stars of tomorrow today. No, they're like, if they do good, they'll get to NXT, and then maybe possibly someday Raw and SmackDown if they're really, really, really good. Like, they're tempering expectations for this show.
Yeah, it's not like it's NXT, like, an offshoot of NXT in that way. I'll have to figure out another way to... I just realized there's too many things under cross-branded titles on mine, so I'm like, I gotta start looking at like another term for it to be like all the other things like Money in the Bank and King of the Ring. Like, they're not titles, so it's like, what about other accolades and...
trophies? Like, it's...
and non-roster championships or something like that. That's other accolades. Good enough. Look at that. Everybody's listening live on, or not, you're listening live, but you know what I mean. Listening live on a restructuring of smarkmomo.com. But yeah, so I think the ID thing is going to be more so we give these people a championship and they can defend it on any random show. And whether that's like Zeta Steel, for instance, it's just like, okay, she's the ID champion.
Yeah, she's my pick, actually, to win the women's title first.
And then she just wrestles on, backwoods, fuck you, pro wrestling or something. And
I love BWFU.
That instantly boosts the purpose of that random indie. Like, they can be like, okay, we're advertising that we have a WWE ID Championship match.
So
way more people are going to pay attention.
So I saw, and to be clear, I've seen a lot of backlash to Hunter in general since he appeared behind Linda McMahon, literally on camera directly behind Linda McMahon during her Senate confirmation hearing. And I've seen some people being like, if you sign up for this or promote this or have this championship on your show, you will lose me as a fan. Now, I understand the vocal minority on the internet and that whole theory. But at the same time, do you think that this idea is going to sour some people on independent because they're just going to feel like, I don't want to support WWE?
Maybe like 8 people.
All right, so you're very much in the camp of vocal minority and everybody else falls in line.
I have, as somebody who worked in part with an indie fed for 8 years or however long I was doing that, the people that go there are the hardcore, like, wrestling is my life audience, where they just can't get enough wrestling. And the fact that they've got a local thing that they can go to is like, okay, I'm going to go and really put a lot of my money into that because it's too expensive to go to SmackDown, for instance. But then they still try to like work up the money to do it. Or there are people who are as casual as you could possibly get and somebody invited them there. Like, hey, we all decided we're going to go to this local wrestling thing. It's something to do on a Saturday night and it costs you $10.
I think we need more of that.
The more mainstream it gets, the more that they actually could pull that off. Because people do that when it comes to like, just go to a baseball game or like, you just go to a football game, even if it's like the local high school or something. But I don't think that there's almost anybody that's going to be like, Like, what's the top indie fed at this point?
GCW.
If we even when it comes to GCW, if we take that out of the mix, because that's a little higher up, like they're almost TNA level. You know what I mean?
At that point, I'd say maybe Beyond Wrestling or
maybe CZW.
Not anymore.
Monster Factory still do stuff. I mean, I'm going with those two options because they're.
I think they're an ID school, aren't they?
Maybe. I don't remember who's running that right now, but like judging from experience, the people that are going to go to the Monster Factory or CCW, if anybody cares about the WWE side of it, other than that's so cool that we have the WWE ID thing, if they're like, oh, fuck you, I don't want to support WWE, they're going to be like 3 people that go to that show. So it's not going to matter. I think it's just going to be a good thing for these promotions where they could just book, reality wrestling could just be like, there's going to be a WWE ID Championship match tonight.
But all right, like I'm excited for the smaller indies because reality wrestling was already.
They get NXT people and stuff.
And they have Booker T as the selling point of like, come see the students of, 5-time WCW champion Booker T. I look at it more of a positive for people like Xena Sterling, who I know I did an article about her saying, yeah, WWE ID allowed me to become a full-time wrestler because I'm getting paid enough now. Which I think that's a positive to me.
Yeah.
And
that's like, we're going to have to pay attention to where they go on like how many times do they do this and how much are they focused on it and all. But generally speaking, I like the idea behind this and I like the championships. They look like they're very Smark out moment-y. I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah.
So I like the ID side of that thing. The rest of it, we're going to have to find out as time goes on. I don't have a transition for this, but if we're talking about like different brandings and stuff, you mentioned a trademark. Rings, Rivals, and Rumbles.
Yeah, so it was trademarked along with Superstar Central. Superstar Central, I can tell you, is I'm going to call it Samsung TV because that's what I have. But it's like the Pluto TV, Samsung TV. It's the 24/7 channel that just streams the WWE on A&E content. And it's called WWE Superstar Central. And I got news for you. As a wrestling fan, you want some background noise that you can just turn your head and go, oh, they're showing the episode of Rivals with Kane and The Undertaker. That's cool. Superstar Central? Superstar Central. It's fine to have in the background. Like, I've had it on plenty of times as I'm working. It's just, if you missed one of the episodes or you want to see the Shawn Michaels documentary again, it'll be played because they're all played on a loop.
Tell me why.
I mean, not that. Not the music video from 1996, Tony.
It's the first thing that came to my mind.
I can see that.
I wonder if I showed that to Caroline or not yet. If I didn't, I'll have to show it to her and be like, "You want to see something that's overly melodramatic?" And
that's absolutely the song.
She's taken to her go-to catchphrase for the past couple of months. It's been, and it's gonna be ramping up even more. When she overhears something very melodramatic in wrestling or like very over the top, she'll be like, "Oh, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Why are they saying it like that?" Like, like when they do, actually, I think the first time she might have said that, now that I can think about it, now you're getting, wife talk, was the Cody and Brock video package with the song being like, "Oh, I love it and I hate it at the same time," and it was all dramatic with like Cody getting up real slowly and she was all like, "Shut the fuck up. Why? This isn't that serious."
That's funny because to me, knowing Ken, I would think that that's like the part of wrestling she could sink her teeth into. Because, yeah, it's melodramatic, but it's theater.
Right.
Like,
well, she does get more engaged with that for sure. Like, you know, that's something I could have a conversation with her about rather than like moves, you know?
It's totally the idea that it's wrestling.
Right,
you
yeah.
know,
Because it doesn't need to be this dramatic.
Yeah, like, it's just like, I hate that you people take yourselves so seriously.
Yup.
It's kind of a fun little peek inside to like, you're never gonna be what you think you are, guys.
No, this is never gonna be Shakespeare. You know?
But so
this is Shakespeare at the park where you go, oh my god, why are they dressed up like that? They're embarrassing themselves.
Have you watched the latest episode of Harley Quinn? I'm talking about the
Yes, I did.
Okay.
The Brainiac musical.
Yeah. Brainiac, the hyphen, the musical.
The tragedy of or something.
Oh yeah, Brainiac, the tragedy of hyphen
the musical.
That's exactly what wrestling is sometimes. And like, look, when it's done right, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean,
when it's done bad, it's really, really bad.
Even that, though, I mean, like, she can get more into the WWE side of things than the AEW side because the AEW stuff doesn't have as much story. So, like...
See, that's funny because if you're invested, and this is the kind of stuff that Caroline wouldn't be, but if you're, like, invested in the story of Hangman, oh my god, people will write dissertations about the nuance of storytelling and the Hangman stuff all day long. But you have to actually have cared enough about all of the moves and following the people to get there. That's the hard part with AEW.
We're going to come back to that point when we talk about AEW because I definitely want to talk about that promo. But Superstar Central's like just a running feed. What about Rings, Rivals, and Rumbles?
So they were trademarked into the same thing, which is basically like a television show. I have no idea what this could possibly be. Because when I read the name, I'm like, is that like an action figure lineup? You know? It's WWE, Rings, Rivals, and Rumbles. Wait a minute, hold on. I just said it like that, and now I'm thinking, welcome to Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
I think it might end up being... Look, realistically, almost all of these shows are just how's another way we can edit the same documentary type of thing.
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock.
Right.
And
so, you know.
And hey, I don't know if you knew this or not, guys. I don't know if you knew. But in 1995, WCW started this show called Nitro. And there was this Monday Night War.
Oh man, you know, we should definitely do an episode about that and talk about on episode 3 there was this thing called the Montreal Screwjob.
And it's crazy because in episode 4 we're going to talk about how that led to this group called DX, and they got a tank and they drove into where Nitro was being filmed.
Well, hold on, we need some old school content. Why don't we talk about the rock and wrestling era and say that Cyndi Lauper was there and that WrestleMania was a big gamble?
It's the same shit all the time. It's and it's like it's getting worse.
Now, granted, like if you're gonna appeal to widespread audience and casuals and stuff, you're not gonna be like, let's do a whole episode on a deep dive about the feud between the Funkasaurus against somebody. You know what I mean? Like, why did Tensai stop being Tensai and start becoming his tag team partner? Like, you're not going to do that, but people like us are going to be like, I don't need to watch the same documentary for the 38th time.
Because it's the same beats. Oh, man. On episode 6 of Rings, Rivals, and Rumbles, they're going to talk about the Hell in a Cell from 1998, where The Undertaker threw Mankind off, and the whole business changed at that point because that was like the turning point in the Monday Night War.
And you just cut to Undertaker. I thought I killed him.
And you cut to Mick Foley going, up until that point, I hadn't really understood my limits. But that's the night where I started to think, maybe I won't be doing this forever. It's the same fucking talking. Like, we could do an episode
just of the amount of times we've seen the documentaries on these things.
Just ripping on this. Just like, oh, and here's your token New Generation episode where they talk about Brett, Shawn, Razor, and Diesel, and Undertaker. Like, you know, I understand that, like, I've dedicated my whole life to this stuff, but at the same time, there's so much content. I've also dedicated my life to superheroes. You'd be surprised how many times you'll stumble upon something that you didn't know because that catalog is so extensive.
Tonight, I did. I had been saying over this past couple episodes of Harley Quinn, when they started showing Coco, because I was explaining Brainiac to Caroline too. She's like, wait, what's his story? And I was like, well, he used to be just like a big-headed green alien, and then they became like, you know, they did a version of it where he's the brain interactive construct and whatever. And she's like, oh my God, you're nerding out so much. And I'm like, shut up, I'm not done. Like, but I started getting that, and when they showed Coco, I was like, but I don't know what the fuck this monkey thing is. They must have just made that for the show. And then tonight I was like, they put a lot into this Coco character. Let me look that up. And I'm like, oh shit, this was real. Coco was pre-Crisis.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can find so much content. And I'm here to tell you, wrestling is that deep if you want it to be. It doesn't have, even the WWE stuff, even the most sanitized WWE version of it is still at least 50 years deep of content that gets boiled down to like 5 talking points, and it's asinine.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna kind of come back to this discussion in another way, because
is very strong tonight.
Yeah, it is. On a Thursday night, we're gonna come back to this idea when we go back to the Hangman Page and MJF thing. You know what? Let's just keep the ball rolling, and we can go back to AEW and bounce around. So on AEW Dynamite, they had a promo that opened it up between MJF and Hangman Adam Page, where, long story short, MJF was saying it's bullshit that Hangman can do terrible things like set a guy's house on fire and like injure people to the point where they have to retire and everything, and drink somebody's blood and do all this stuff. And you people give him a pass when you don't do that to me. And Page's response was essentially, I do what I gotta do. I'm not the best guy, but I don't lie to the people. And that's why they chant cowboy shit and all. And it comes back around to the point with MJF saying, you are the main character. You have been predestined to be the main character since before this company really even started. And the two of us had the first match. It came down to the two of us. And all the things that I got, I had to like work for it, but you were given to it by a bunch of your friends. That's more like heel shtick. But he reiterated the idea that we've talked about of like, and Callum's brought this up quite a bit too. I think Callum, more than anybody else, has brought this up about Hangman being the main character overall for AEW. And MJF's big like line was basically, if you're going to be the main character, I'll be the main villain. And I'm okay with that.
And by the way, this is the perfect opposite end of the scale from Mox and Cope. It's perfect. It's two established AEW guys that are not in the main event right now because in storyline, all these reasons, but out of storyline, it's this weird like focus shift to these more established stars, you know, Cope, Mox, Lashley, etc. And this story is being told so well that I'm so glad that they dropped the Jeff Jarrett thing seemingly out of nowhere. But like,
see, that's what I don't like about it. That's why I would say it's not being told well.
But I'm okay.
Hangman goes from swerve to I'm upset about Moxley and them, which seems like it's like, okay, now it's time for me to save the company and I'm going to turn babyface. And then they just give him this side thing with Daniels, and then they move on to MJF, who's been with Jeff Jarrett for this whole thing, and Jeff Jarrett's just fucked off.
It sounds like... So at first, I'll start here with Hanger. Because at first I was upset that he went from killing Swerve in the cage to I'm just going to lose to Jay White to I somehow get a championship match. And then you look at the side plot with Daniels into the thing with MJF. But the reason I say it's good is if everybody's hating what the fuck you're doing right now with the Death Riders, you salvage it by killing another thing that people were hating, which is the Jeff Jarrett MJF thing, and pivoting to this story that, you know, can get Hanger on track to being the number one babyface. It does follow the trend, which I've been critical of in the past, that none of the Elite storylines ever get finished properly. Ever. If it's Bucks, Kenny, Hanger, there's always something where 1 minute they're like starkly against each other, and the next minute they're like, we gotta come back together. And you want them to just stay together, and then in 3 weeks they're like, actually I hate you. like and you can't figure it out. But I like it here because these two are the two that need each other right now. And the company needs this story right now. I do agree that they seem to just want to be rushing Hangman, but it's also like we constantly point out, that story has actually been going on for, I guess people would say, the better part of a year, because even though Hangman did disappear for a while to, you know, tend to being a father again for the second time, he did kind of turn on the road to Revolution last year. And Max desperately needed to get away from Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, it's just, I wish that they would have gone about this in another way. And there's certain elements that it's like, that's not worth getting super deep into. And then there's other elements that I really, really like. Like, I really like how they did call attention to these two started off with the first match and by and large are kind of main characters and all. And that's actually the thing I wanted to come back to. I put this out for any wrestling news question of the day. If those two are the main characters of AEW, who would you say are the main characters of WWE? Now, my assessment was mostly you can't say just for the entire company because they've been around too long. And you have to kind of make the adjustment of you need to do it by era. Because you obviously John Cena was the main character. But obviously before that, Hulk Hogan was the main character. And obviously before that, it was Bob Backlund. And before that, it was Bruno Sammartino.
See, it gets dicey around New Gen and Attitude.
Yeah, New Gen and the Attitude Era when it wasn't Stone Cold. Because that's the most that you can ever do, is you could say Stone Cold's main character, main hero, main villain is Vince McMahon.
Right, but then you go like, well, The Rock was kind of main character.
Mm-hmm.
But like
the way I described it on my thing was think of The Rock supplemental to Vince McMahon, opposite Stone Cold, and Seth Rollins as the secondary underneath like Triple H when Brock Lesnar's not in that spot, because Brock was definitely the main villain, opposite Roman Reigns. They're both like, okay, want to use Megatron, want to use Starscream.
See, and then when you think of that New Gen, I've fully accepted, if you just look at it from a logical perspective, it is Brett, full stop.
Brett more than Sean.
But there's no definitive New Gen villain.
No, because he moves around too. It's kind of like with Hogan. Hogan's main villain was whatever they wanted to do. And I ended up writing down on there, if anybody was kind of the main villain of the Hogan era, it's probably Bobby Heenan.
I like where you're going there. That probably covers the most ground the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, if you're doing episode 1 of your retrospective, you're saying it's Piper. But I think if you're doing the historical arch, it's Andre. But then, here's where it gets fun, kids. If you don't want to do the overarching historical thing, you just, for whatever reason that day, want to go with like his equal and a good match, it's Savage.
Yeah.
And that to me is so interesting because that's what made Cena so good. Because he was just like definitively, nope, you're the guy. You're the hero. 10 years have revolved around you. And nobody is as definitively the guy as John Cena. Again, the nerd is strong tonight.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, it's an interesting way of approaching a lot of that. And I like those stories in a lot of ways more than a lot of other things, because I like the idea behind being able to track the stories of these things and the characters more than just doing the matches and stuff.
But the thing with AEW, and the reason why I think they get a lot of flack for the whole, they don't do stories, they just do matches, and then you'll have the borderline unhinged elite girlies be like, no, here's all this lore, and like on a Tuesday in 2016, Hangman wore this shirt, and it means that he's going through this emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And like to the point where even I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So,
yeah.
Like, but you have to have loved those characters. And I think that's why this company brings out a lot of that. Because people love these characters so deeply. And I think in his own way, it's the same thing with Max, where Max needed the moment where he just says, no, I'm fine being the villain. Because they did go through a weird period where it was like, I want to be your scumbag. And it was like, okay, so he's a babyface. And even in the Adam Cole rivalry for 5 seconds, he was babyface. But I think they know that it's not where he needs to be.
Yeah. It's just, we're going in the hardcore nerdy side of things like that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. But
I mean, that's how often do we do a deep dive like that?
I get why Hangman is the main character, but I also resent that because, for injuries aside, Kenny Omega damn sure should be the main character of this company.
Yeah.
Along with Mox. Like, I kind of hate that, Kenny hasn't been the main character as much as he should be. Because he is that good. And I wish the injuries were different. I wish Mox wasn't even being a villain right now. I think Mox gives Hanger a run for his money in terms of main character. Because, like, that dude is AEW. And one of the reasons I personally hate the writers is because it's such a big miss for a guy who was almost batting perfect since leaving WWE. It's such a big miss. And it's almost, because of how hyperbolic people tend to get, it's almost reputationally, irreparable damage for him. Because people are just like, I hate this story. It feels too WWE.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean,
all that to say, phenomenal promo. Phenomenal promo from both guys. I thought that the whole, Hanger giving Daniels his flowers real quick was fantastic. I think the idea that, and this is something you like a lot, especially when we're doing like Bond films and stuff, where Max is right. He's the villain, but he's 100% correct. Why are you setting a guy's house on fire? And people are like, yay!
Yeah.
Do it again. Like, you set someone's house on fire. You're wrong.
So, I mean, that's one element of the Dynamite episode. We got to bounce around a little bit in some other ways and stuff too. But going back to another WWE topic, well, actually, just round it out. Rings, Rivals, and Rumbles, I'm assuming is another documentary thing as well. I think it's going to be rings, meaning like Hall of Fame rings, and Rivals being like
the greatest rivals of whatever that Hall of Famer is.
Yeah, like Ric Flair being like, so my rivals and my Rumbles where I really loved having matches with Ricky Steamboat. You know, do that fucking thing all over again.
Did you know that
Ricky Steamboat and Sting and my match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania was really special to me.
Oh, God.
Even though I completely did it as many times as I did.
And they're going to go, but did you know that in 1989 they had 3 matches? And it's like, motherfucker. Like, yes, I did, actually.
So I think it's going to be just another one of those things. But, you know, like LFG, if they end up presenting something that's interesting enough, then I'll watch it. So, you know, shout out to anybody else.
And like everything else I've just mentioned, despite having seen it numerous times, it is the easiest background content for me. So I'll watch it. Like, you know, like it will be odd.
Back to another topic on that kind of front, the WWE Hall of Fame, the class of 2025, apparently still is in the running to just like have something different. And
it's like, I believe WrestleVotes said it's likely not airing the same day as SmackDown, which I'm good with. You know, like even if you air it post when it happens, I'm good with that.
I still think the best thing that they could do is to do it on Thursday night. So it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have something, you know. But no real report exactly on if they will actually change anything. And if they will, then what? The only other thing that had happened this week was they confirmed Michelle McCool is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that makes perfect sense to me. Michelle McCool is more than worthy of being inducted. She's what, like a 4-time women's champion or something?
Yeah. I want them to do something. And they're not going to do it because the other rumor is finally they're going to put Demolition. No, that's tomorrow. But finally they're going to put Demolition in.
I think that's going to happen, yeah.
Which, first of all, actually, no, I'll say what I have to say about them if they get it. But I want them to put the Hardys in as the tag team. I want them to put Umaga in. And I really don't know beyond that. But I think you have a really special chance here to do an all Ruthless Aggression era class. And I think that would be special to, you know, the 20-somethings and early 30-somethings to be like, yeah, okay, this is a class specifically for you. The year that come to WrestleMania, watch your teenage years get inducted, watch John Cena's last Mania match, which might be against CM Punk, which might be against Cody Rhodes. You know, it's like you have the chance to create a special vibe for a certain generation. And yes, I'm biased as somebody who is of that generation, but I also know that you don't get the chance to do this that often. I'll cite the class from 20 years ago. The 2005 class literally just did, here's Hogan, here's Piper, here's Sheik and Volkov, here's WrestleMania 1. You have the chance right now to be like, here's the Ruthless Aggression era. Here's the late 2000s. You know what I mean? And I think that would be such a cool idea. But they're not going to do it because they're going to put Demolition in, and then they'll put in fucking. I'm trying to think of the worst possible.
Seesaw McGee from 1912.
Yeah, like it'll be like.
I already know Seesaw McGee. He invented the step into the ropes to get into the ring tactic.
Right, and it'll be like, we're not inducting Amago, we're inducting Armando Drew Estrada.
Right, yeah.
And you're just like, God damn it, dude. No, I think they had the chance to create something special. You had the relationship with TNA. Just do it. For fuck's sake, you sat on Demolition for so long as it is. Like, make them a legacy induction.
Make them the legacy induction.
Remember the Legacy Award? Do that, right? Do that. You got Bam Bam in that way, didn't you?
No, Bam Bam's still not in.
Did they do Legacy Award Bam Bam? That's insane.
Yeah, Bam Bam would have to be posthumous, and while Sid at this point would have to be posthumous as well, unfortunately. Yeah. Missed out on opportunity of doing a good Hall of Fame speech for him right there.
I know.
Yeah. McCool, I would assume, is going to be inducted by Layla.
Really? You don't think they're going to fucking just take the chance to put The Undertaker on television?
No.
Really?
No, I think that Taker, despite being her husband, I don't think that it's going to make sense for him to induct her and talk about her career. Because didn't they only start dating after she stopped wrestling? For the most part?
No.
I thought that she pretty much stopped wrestling and that's when they were dating.
No. You're thinking of Edge and Beth Phoenix.
Were they dating when she was doing the on-screen thing with Chuck Palumbo?
It was shortly after that.
So she's like, hey, I do like a biker guy with that kind of vibe, but not that one.
So, like, I think if I had to go with a wrestler, and listen, I understand why you're saying Layla.
Because she kept talking about how she really wanted to be inducted as LayCool.
Well, because, I mean, respect to Layla, she understands if I'm going in, that's the most likely option. And but that being said,
Layla is, for that matter, I think Layla's well deserved of a Hall of Fame induction too.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, look, WWE Hall of Fame's fake. Like, Drew Carey's in it.
She won the Divas Search. She was a Divas champion and women's champion. I
forget that she won the Divas Search.
And she had the LayCool tag team idea about like splitting the championship with, at the time, it was like, oh, it's something different to do. And then it apparently won a Slammy Award too. Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you're of that era, it's so special to you. And I really want to see that. I'm guessing that they're going to have Mickey do it.
Mickey's possibility. Natty's possibility.
And I'm fully expecting at least 2 minutes of that speech to be like, so sorry about Piggy James. Like, because I don't know if they've ever publicly, like maybe in shoot interviews and stuff, but I don't know if as WWE, if they've ever been like, hey, we're so sorry. But, because that she gets asked that
at most they would do some kind of a thing where if they were doing the documentary style, they would be like, in this era, we had some questionable storylines, and they'd be like, the creative wasn't great. And then they'll move it on from there.
And literally, it's the Popola voiceover of, there was some questionable stories that don't age well in modern times, and you just see like the Mickey James, that's all folks thing, and that's it. Like, but no, I think.
Well, they would have to do that, and then they would do like 2 other quick clips of like some kind of poop joke and
Natty farting at Juan Cena.
Something like that. Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of options for her to be inducted by people. Taker stands out. Mickey stands out. Layla stands out. Maybe her daughter. Maybe they've done that in the past. You know, where it's just like, hey, Undertaker's gonna come out, but really her kids are gonna get a chance to say something, and then it's just like love all the way around. And sometimes those are the best. Like when Booker inducted Charmel, and he's just like, God, I love that woman so much. You know, here's my wife, everybody.
It could just be that, whatever. But yeah, I think that McCool she was on the list of people where it was like, you're going to come around to it at some point.
And we talked about this before, even before she got inducted, where is it just becoming a matter of who do we know for a fact will be in Vegas that weekend?
Who can we guarantee won't back out on us in some way? And some of that ends up being like, did we just sign Demolition to a Legends deal? Yes. Okay. Well, then as part of the deal, we're going to say you're going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. So this is going to be a 3-month window at most where we really need to work with you. And then we don't need to bother anymore.
But in the 3 months, they're going to get so much content.
Yeah. They'll sign deals about, putting them in the video game and like, yeah, it'll be a whole thing.
So by the way, Demolition, fantastic choice. They're in the Cyndi Lauper category for me of could have fucking happened 15 years ago. You know?
Yeah, way more than that even.
Yeah, like should have happened a while ago. But if they end up going in and getting their flowers, I think that's great. I think inducting the Hardy Boys is a teeny bit better. You get to put over the TNA thing. Let's get them in there while we know that everybody's healthy.
See, I think that they're wrestling Axiom and Fraser at Stand and Deliver.
I think they're wrestling Axiom and Fraser in the Garden.
What's the Garden show?
Roadblock.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's at the Garden. I should try to go to that.
You should. I think you'd have fun.
Probably look at the tickets and it'll be like nosebleeds $912 or something, and I'll be like, oh, never mind. But yeah, I think Demolition is going to be announced as the tag team of the year for Hall of Fame, not PWI. Maybe wondering. It's not going to be the end of the year. Smark Moment Awards Demolition Tag Team of the Year.
Who's left for like celebrity inductees?
There's still, Cyndi Lauper is the first one that comes to my mind. But
yes. Can they posthumously do Liberace?
They're not going to in this era,
Yeah, that's true.
They'll be like, that's a DEI thing. At what point do you classify The Rock as a celebrity? What about Batista?
That's how they're going to get Batista. Batista's the celebrity induction. You know what they need to do one of these days? They need to, for the induction, for the celebrity induction, to be like the fucking Muppets.
Yay!
Hey everybody, Kurt Frog here. Thank you for giving me this honor, and I just want to say it ain't easy being green, and Omos knows a lot about that.
I love the idea that Kermit cuts a promo saying "fuck Omos." That's what he uses his thing for. It's not even like animals, the one you have to worry about, or Oscar the Grouch nuts. It's simple old fucking Kermit being like, fuck Omos.
Again, the nerd is strong tonight.
I can't think of any other celebrities that would be worth going into the Hall of Fame, because they did Muhammad Ali already. So, like, that was one of the few that I was like, how the hell's, like, he not in there yet, or she not in there yet, or whatever.
You know what? It's been 30 years. What's Lawrence Taylor doing? He in jail? He alive? He good? Like,
probably not.
Because if he's good, Lawrence Taylor. It's been 30 years. Do it.
It's a Demolition. Yeah. So Hall of Fame talk on that front. That's one thing. Actually, let's talk about this idea. Shane McMahon had that meeting with Tony Khan a while back, and we were all curious, is this going to lead to something? Is he going to be a part of the company? We were thinking for a while, tinfoil hats very securely on, that he was going to be revealed to be working with Jon Moxley, and that this whole start of the Death Riders thing was them being like, he's the big mastermind, he's the higher power. It turns out, according to Sean Ross Sapp, that Shane McMahon had this meeting with Tony Khan. Shane was interested in having equity in the company, and it was it Jonathan Coachman, the one that was explaining this?
Apparently,
I think it was Coachman, right?
Yes.
Who reported it. Then Sean Ross Sapp with the person we were following with that. So let me find the exact quote that Coachman said. He said, "I remember that picture surfaced with Shane McMahon meeting Tony Khan, and there was all the speculation that he wanted to come into AEW. Then all of a sudden, that talk just disappeared. Well, I have it on good authority that Shane McMahon asked for the world. He wanted equity in the company, and he wanted to come in and run the entire show. And honestly, it was probably the first time I said to myself, I actually agree with Tony Khan ghosting him, because Tony ghosted Shane. It wasn't the other way around." And then another report element had said that he meaning Shane, wasn't familiar with the talent, and that it was a matter of like he didn't really familiarize himself with the product when he approached Tony Khan about this. And to me, I find that funny in a lot of different ways, because it's like, all right, Tony Khan clearly is very obsessed about this. This is a passion project of his. You want to take that away from him, you have to give him a reason to not want to continue to do his passion project. And speaking as somebody that runs Smark Out Moment and has been approached about selling it, and it's like, you don't offer me something that can scratch that same itch, and on more on top of that, why would I be interested in that? So if Tony Khan was interested in selling it to make money,
to be clear, Tony Khan has money. Tony Mango,
right?
Not so much.
Yeah,
so
now
there would at least be that.
That's why I had this discussion, because it was like, how much are you interested in whatever? Because if somebody said, I'll give you, $7 million, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna adios, Smark Out Moment, everybody. You want to follow me on Tony Mango places, and but you can't say to Tony Khan, okay, well, I'll have equity in the company and whatever, and I'll take over creative. No, of course he's going to say no. If he wanted just money, he'd sell it to somebody like the Saudis, or the way that like Endeavor did the whole thing. And if he wasn't interested in the creative and it was like, I want to own the company, but I don't want to do the creative, he wouldn't have done this in the first place. The whole point is that he wants to be the head of creative. He wasn't supposed to be when the Young Bucks and all were involved at the start. And then it became slowly more and more Tony Khan's just taking charge and doing that because he wants to. So for Shane to have the gall to be like, hey, I'm interested in, because my father took the company back and passed me over for like the 12th time, I'm interested in taking the number 2 company and just buying it and then saying mine now.
Well, to be clear, okay, so let me read a little bit from Select. Everybody subscribe to Fightful Select. Best $6 in the Patreon wrestling industry, outside of the ones that you get to Smark Out Moment. I don't care which one you do, because somewhere or another, that's getting kicked back to me. By the way, hence the we don't bullshit you on the podcast. According to a source close to Shane McMahon, Khan did not follow up with Shane. That source also claimed that they couldn't speak on the desire for equity, but that it seemed like Shane McMahon did want to run things, but he didn't have the product knowledge or familiarity. So it sounds like they had a baseline conversation where Shane was, and this is me speculating and just envisioning things, where what's the most attractive thing to Tony Khan? Saying, I got a McMahon to appear on another company's show. And he's probably like, hey, we can have some fun, but also I want to try to run some things. At which point Tony Khan's probably like, what are you crazy? No, you're not going to take this away from me. And yeah, I hope to see something come to fruition. Shit, Shane, get together with Freddie Prinze Jr. for all I care. I'd be interested in seeing what that looks like inside of WWE. You know, like,
I'd be interested, but you can't do that with AEW.
no, and
You have to create your own company and do that. If anybody you want to partner up with Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, that's like would make the most sense. But
yeah, like
if he obviously wasn't interested in doing that because we haven't heard anything about this thing with Freddie Prinze Jr. for the longest time, then like, yeah, it's a baffling thing to me because I can't picture Tony Khan like entertaining that idea at all. And to me, it just comes across being like, hey, you've been doing pretty well with that second company. Can I swoop in and take all the credit? Now that you did all the hard work in getting that set up, you know?
Well, to be fair, that's kind of in his blood.
True.
Yeah. You know, like, to be fair.
Yeah, the territory days, yeah.
That is kind of what they do.
But, understand how you gotta get sold?
Well, they don't need to now.
No.
It's the NXT champion just pops up on their television program.
I'm still waiting for that to just be announced as like, yeah, we have a partnership in this way or something, you know? Like they announced the partnership crossover, but it's like, that's ECW. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to announce any more than that. They announced a multi-year partnership, which means WWE's floating them some, you know, keeping them in business, and they're getting some business out of it. Like, I think it's healthy.
Credit to TNA, man. The cockroach of the wrestling industry. Shit never dies. Just finds a way to adapt.
I think it's super healthy. And yeah, we've talked a lot on this podcast, myself and Callum specifically, about wanting a good C-tier option. And that's no longer TNA. Now they have a direct working relationship. But at the same time, God, doesn't this put to bed the fucking RIP TNA stuff? I was like, it was so... When did you do it? You did like that like 12 years ago or something.
Episode, I think it was 85.
You did a whole like RIP TNA. They're done. And like they never did. So I'm glad that they have kind of just nestled into this spot. Because what else can you do?
Well, the idea that Shane and Tony Khan had that meeting and then Tony Khan, quote, ghosted him, I think is as good of an explanation as why we haven't seen anything come about it. And
well, I'm not in favor of ghosting people. I think that is a very immature thing to do. In any
most situations, I agree. There are some times where it's just like, okay.
But I also think they're two grown men. I highly doubt one ghosted the other. There was probably just like.
So Shane sending him some messages. He's like, hey, so I was thinking, you know, about what we were talking about the other day. Just still wanted to get your thoughts. He doesn't hear anything back. And then he goes, hey, Tony, I don't know if my message went through. I'm going to try you again or whatever. And then another week later, TK, my dog, thought of anything more about whatever. And then he gets up sending, I just came across this funny meme. I was just thinking about you.
That's not working. So he DMs him on Twitter, TK WID question mark, or like you up at like 2 a.m.
You know, I don't know if I should make this joke. Should I make this joke? Should I make it or not?
You know what? I'm gonna save you and say don't make the joke.
I'm gonna make the joke. So he said. He sends him a message. Tony Khan, I'm sorry to do this publicly, but it is no longer acceptable to ignore the situation. This requires immediate attention. If you don't want to talk to me, can you please designate or hire someone who can...
Is that the Ashley Sinclair message to Elon?
It's whoever it was that sent it. Grimes. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Giant middle finger.
Fuck Elon. I don't care. Like
that's why I'm like, should I make this joke? It's not like they're not going to come after me for other things anyway, you know. But we're talking about TNA and all that stuff. Let's talk about some other TNA related things, because look at that. That's what we call a transition in the business. Moose popped up on NXT this week, and the No Quarter Catch crew out of nowhere interrupted Axiom and Nathan Fraser to be like, hey, fuck you. Anyway, tag teams are great, and I want to fight the Hardys. And
well, it's cool because it's such a nonchalant way of setting it up with the tag team thing, because everybody's been going after Fraxium, and they're just like, ugh, in line, guys. And they're just like, yeah, no, we don't want to fight you. We want to fight the Hardys. And it's just like, oh, by the way, the Hardys. And this is the part where I go, the Hardys don't get enough credit. Jeff Hardy doesn't get enough credit as like one of the most over wrestlers of all time. Because how are you going to tell me that the announcement of the Hardys returning was just like a... And by the way, Miles Bourne said the Hardys. What? Like, this is one of your most popular wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy in particular.
Yeah, like that locker room's gonna be lined up just to be like, hey, can I do your dance with you? Like, they're a bunch of nerds who grew up fans of Jeff Hardy. I mean,
like somebody like Javon.
Yeah, like
Javon's just gonna be marking out like crazy.
He's gonna be like, can we do a match? Like, just anything. I could team with you. I could fight you. Could we do something?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's gonna be cool. And it's in Cleveland, which is a huge city for the Hardys, because it's the site of the first Edge and Christian Hardy's ladder match from Mercy in '99. If it wasn't in that city, honestly, I'd question why we're not doing this at Roadblock or
Stand and Deliver.
Yeah,
that's where I think Hardy Boys versus Axiom and Nathan Fraser is happening at Stand and Deliver more so than Roadblock, because I think there's a chance that they want to have the Hardys at WrestleMania weekend and be like, that's going to be a big draw for that.
Oh, I definitely think there's going to be a lot of TNA crossover for Stand and Deliver.
And that could be when the Moose and Obafemi match happens.
See, I can see that happening. You think they're going to do Moose, Oba, Stand and Deliver. See, here's my problem with that. And we'll get more into this as we talk about TNA's program tonight. But I don't like that Moose is X Division champion, and that Joe Hendry finally wins the big one, and he's like the afterthought of the show.
It's weird that they called it the most prestigious championship in TNA.
Yeah, because they didn't mean... I don't know if they meant that. I think they meant it's the most synonymous championship in TNA. I mean, by the way, if you're going to have WWE TNA crossover, is now not the time to have fucking AJ Styles doing something? Like, just being on X...
Well,
like,
maybe he still will. I mean, it's a multi-year partnership. Maybe they do plan on having like a Worlds Collide type thing or something.
That is true.
Or it could just be, we're really holding on AJ Styles in case we really want to be like, okay, fine, we can send that to you, but you got to send us this guy that's really, popular or something.
Well, what did you think of... That was your first, like, real-time seeing Moose, right? What did you think of that? Because I thought it was brilliant.
I've seen a Moose match here or there with TNA. Not enough that I could tell you, like, his signature moves and stuff, but he was somebody that I was like, I don't think he's going to do super well in WWE to want him there, but I kind of like this guy.
I thought it was great the way they did it, because Femi calls out the...
whatever the fucking name of this group is, which that's another thing we need to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to call them the Retribution 4, and until they get a name, and lights go out, and I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe we're going to see their leader. And it's Moose shows up, and you're like, oh shit, they actually pulled the trigger. Moose is on WWE TV. And I said to you, Moose being on WWE TV is crazy. Him being on network TV is even crazier. Like, he's just on, the CW, and The Rock was just on this show, and like, it is super cool for NXT and TNA to be doing this. And he's like, I'm the X Division champion. And I'm thinking, you were the world champion for like a year. Just a couple months ago. Why did they wait so long? Like...
You had to wait until Obafemi was champion, I guess.
I guess, because, like, what, Moose versus Trick wouldn't have...
Now, it's like that could have, I think, even worked better in some ways.
Because Trick is a more definitive babyface.
And Trick really needs more wins because they just keep having him lose.
And he needs more reps, and he needs more
title defenses
working outside of WWE. And like, I think Trick Williams would work. Not that Obafemi doesn't need those things, but I think for the kind of star that Trick Williams has the potential to be.
Yeah. And realistically, let's put it this way. I mean, Obafemi has been around less, and he's accomplished more.
At least it feels as though he has.
Yeah. So that's going to happen. Moose is going to defend the X Division title against Lexis King,
which is the most uninspiring match you could ever put on paper.
And it's like, oh, this is going to be a barn burner or whatever. And it's like,
it's annoying because they have Wesley, they have Nathan Fraser, Axiom, they have Javon Evans, who screams X Division.
Like proper X Division, yeah.
You've got Ethan Page, who realistically could just be like, I want that. I never get told that while I was in TNA. You got so many people, and you just went, yeah, okay, Lexis King.
Well, I like what they're doing with Wesley and Ethan Page, where they're going to be feuding next. So I wouldn't take either of them out for an X Division title thing, but Lexis King still doesn't feel like it's the right decision. It still is like, maybe go with somebody like, if they weren't doing the Javon thing, the Javon would be perfect. But
and to be clear, if they weren't the tag team champions,
yeah,
Fraser or Axiom would have been in that spot.
And we're also going to get NXT Women's North American title match next week. Karma Petrovic won that title shot. So that's already something to skip past when it comes to like Roadblock or so. They're going to get this out of the way, and then they're going to move on to something else that fast? I don't necessarily think so.
I'm all right with it. Because they've got Lola lined up for a Roadblock and or Stand and Deliver.
She's going to be involved in some way, yeah. And Petrovic, realistically, she's not beating Vicar, so do the match, have that go down, whatever you want to do, and it doesn't need to be on Roadblock. I just mentioned it, so I guess let's backtrack to this, but Ricky Starks. Not only do we know that he is teaming up with Javon Evans to fight Wesley and Ethan Page, but we know his name.
I thought that, okay. So before we get into our thoughts on the name, and they changed his name, I think it was brilliant. Because we're sitting there talking, and I'll be honest, I was wrong. I'm full-blown like, oh, it's going to be Ricky Starks. And they're just, at this point, they're trolling. Because they like to do that sometimes. Where it's just like, you see, we didn't change it. And then everybody jizzes themselves and tweets about how, like, they didn't change his name. Yes, new era, new WWE. Even though Ethan Page came in with his name. But be that as it may, they really went out of their way to not say his name the entire night. And I'm getting nervous because I'm like, all right, it's almost egregious at this point. And then he gets interrupted by Ethan, who still doesn't say his name, gets interrupted by Wesley, who still doesn't even say his first name. And then they just zoom in on the contract after it's signed, and it reads, Ricky Saints. And of course, the internet couldn't contain themselves and blew up in anger about how stupid of a name it is. I think it's fine, by the way.
I think it's stupid that they can't just call him Ricky Starks. And I wish that they would have just done that, like had that reveal end up being like, okay, well, he is just Starks and you guys were worried for nothing. I still wouldn't really think that would be the best way of announcing that, but then I would have been more okay with it, because Ricky Saints, it's not the worst, but it's still, why? Like, I look at it kind of like Walter Gunther.
No, he wasn't Walter Gunther. He was Gunther.
But like,
actually, he was going to be Gunther something very
he's going to
bad,
be Gunther Stark, yeah.
which is
Hey, if they would have waited a couple of years, a lot of people would have been fucking happy about it. I hate the world. But the change there was like, well, why are you changing it from Walter to Gunther? Especially
guy named Walter becomes guy named Gunther.
Yeah, like, it's just, you know, if you're gonna keep it, just make him stay Walter. Like, yeah, that was actually cooler because it was like the W and the V sound. Gunther's just Gunther. Gunther. I mean, you know, some people.
Gunther.
So Ricky Saints is like, yeah, he's not like dipshit McAdams, but at the same time, what did I call the guy earlier? Like Spoonie McGee or something?
Spoonie McGee. I don't know what you call them, but that's good.
It's like Seesaw
McGee.
Seesaw McGee. Yeah, he could have.
What were you gonna say? Hold on. What were you gonna say? Saws Bugsy? You're gonna go with
Saws Bugsy?
I don't know. I heard you say saws. It sounded like you were gonna say bugs, and I was like, "What? Where you going?"
Saws Bugsy or something? I don't know. Wait, isn't that a Pokemon? Sawsbuck? I think it is. I think it's like a deer. By the way, everybody, I'm thinking about actually, should I show that graphic? Maybe I should show that graphic. I put it up on the screen for a second. Actually, I gotta find it first. That's so stupid.
Again, the nerd is fucking through the roof today.
So look at this on the screen, everybody. This is a potential thumbnail for a thing I might be doing. The Cody Rhodes version of what if he were a Pokemon and whatever. There's a glitch at the top because it's the Fanboys and Smark have moment logo at the same time. But, you know, it's work in progress. I wasn't planning on showing it. So, Sawsbuck, whatever. Yeah, he could have done a really awful name. And Ricky Saints isn't the worst. But I still just don't like the idea that you couldn't have just gone with Starks. And now the theory that I'm seeing from most people is it wasn't so much that they wanted him to not use his name and like a trademark thing, but that there's Zoe Stark.
No, I call bullshit.
Because they did do that before with Nikki Cross.
Yeah, they changed her to Nikki ASH, and they changed her back to Nikki Cross. I think this was more of a, hey, we don't know if we want to use your name. Do you have something else in the meantime, just in case? And he came over with Ricky Saints, and they're just like, actually, let's just play it safe and go with that. If you're all right with it, then let's just play it safe.
It could just be that he is like, I want my WWE name to be different from my real name because I want to be able to play a character. So it's like, I'm Ricky Saints instead of Ricky Starks. Because that is his name, is Ricky Starks. So
is his name just Ricky Starks?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
At least I think that it was when I came across it before. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it's Richard Starks. Yeah, according to Wikipedia, he's Richard Starks.
I wonder if that's why then, because if you think about it, like Ethan Page isn't Ethan Page. His name's Julian something. So maybe
you think it's more of like, well, we can't trademark your name in any way because it's your name.
Yeah. And
they did that with John Cena, didn't they?
Yeah, but
and
that
like
was
Logan Paul. And
remember that's during a weird era where Vince just decided, why the hell would we ever change their names? That's how Gene Snitsky got on the air.
Akira Tozawa's real name's Akira Tozawa.
I think like Cedric. I think there's a few examples in there.
Okay, but I'm looking at the list right now. I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna ask you what their real name is and see if you can guess it. Okay. Here's one you might not know off the top of your head. Guess who Jermaine Haley is?
Jermaine Haley. And these are all WWE, obviously.
Yeah. Current roster.
Jermaine Haley. And this is only hint I'll ask for. Main roster or NXT?
Main roster. Nah, the NXT people is too hard.
Jermaine Haley. I'm going to say Montez Ford.
Bronson Reed.
His name's not Jonah?
Apparently Jermaine Haley, according to Wikipedia.
I thought his name was Jonah. That's why he did Jonah all caps when he left the company.
I think it's just ring name. It looks like he went by J Rock, and then he went by Jonah Rock.
Jonah Rock, yeah.
So J Rock might have been Jermaine Rock at first.
That's funny. Jermaine Haley.
Yeah, some of these names, when you look at this, you're just like, I can't picture that person being that. And then you're like, all right, well, like that's going to be odd to hear. All right, here's another one. Who's Elizabeth Kesar?
Elizabeth Kesar.
Or it might be Kesar. I don't know for sure. Kesar.
I know it's not. I know who it isn't. I'm gonna say. It's actually a difficult thing to think about. Elizabeth Kesar, and main roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like all the women on the main. Kiana James.
Nope.
Elizabeth Kesar. Wait. Oh, it's Scarlett.
Yeah, Scarlett. Never would have guessed that.
That's Kevin Cross's real name. Kevin Cross. That's Killer Cross's real name. Karrion Kross. Listen, he's got
his real name's not Killer.
he's got names.
Kevin Kesar. Yeah, Ricky Saints is not the worst name, and it's something that eventually people will come. Everybody said eventually Gunther's fine. I just don't like that they had to change it.
My thing was Kevin Owens worked out really well for Kevin Steen, and it's close, but it's just a slight change. Saints is a little too close to Starks, maybe, arguably. Where it's very, I saw this one going around, it's very, like, 2008 teenage tired WWE guy. And they barely changed his name. But I kind of like it. It got the New Orleans feel to it. The Revolution is still televised. He was kind of hokey.
Absolute. Ricky Starks, Ricky Saints, yeah.
He was kind of hokey on this episode of NXT.
Like, he kind of hammed it up a little bit, and I'm in WWE, so now I'm gonna go a little old school.
This place is crazy. It was like, I know there was some backlash over the comments he did on Busted Open after the show.
What did he say on there that was a problem?
Where so I will try to pull up the quote real quick. He had mentioned, leaving AEW, and he talked about some of the issues he ran into, where he was like, veterans, and I won't name any names, stuck their nose in my creative, and I'm not trying to be negative in my thought process about it. If you want to step on me to get ahead in your illustrious career, everyone has an illustrious career. Everyone should have an illustrious career. That's perfectly fine. I'm not wet behind my ears. And a lot of people, I saw different takes on this. I saw a lot of people just saying, I hate when people leave AEW and they bash the company. And I'm like, dude, look, personally, I don't think he's bashing AEW. I think he had a personal experience that
Seemingly
was
with
bad,
one legend, right?
or
Which is like, is that
at,
Edge?
at least a legend. I don't know. I don't know if it was Cope. For all we know, it could have been Sting. Maybe he's the one guy who's really. I'm putting over Sting for the tag team titles.
Because it wouldn't be Punk, because Punk was supposed to be a guy that was really like working with him, right?
Yeah, and I know there was a lot of people who were like, I saw this comment of, it feels like the Punk and Cody guys are all leaving, and that's fine. And it's like, I don't think it's that deep. And maybe that's me being naive. Maybe I'm clinging to like some shred of not everything in the world needs to be that deep, but I don't think it has to be that deep. Like they iced him for a year, bro, for whatever reason. Like they iced him for a year. They didn't like,
Do you think it's more like Kenny?
Every time something comes up about him, there's that funny comment of he made the joke of, "Hey, if it was me, I wouldn't have hired half of you." After the Punk incident, I don't know, because the thing with Starks is that you can't deny he was used strongly. He feuded with Jericho, he feuded with Punk, he wrestled Sting. Like he was used strongly.
Relatively, like he wasn't the world champion yet, but like he was
but he did challenge
fixture player. Like he had the FTW title.
He beat Punk. I think it's fully possible he had a shitty experience, and I think that's okay. Like I think it's okay if his experience doesn't line up with what you wish it was, because his experience didn't line up to what I wish it was. I wish he was still with the company, and helping that company grow.
I think he's going to do better here, even though he wasn't hokey. But
obviously, he's built for that type of show.
Ricky Saints. Let's see how his career goes more than Ricky Starks.
Oh, and the Saints go marching in. And the Saints go marching in. You're not going to join in?
I was waiting for you to finish. What else happened on NXT? Anything worth talking about? Oh, there was the attack at the end with the group. So the Lennox, James, Sugars, and Griffin, they still have not explained anything. They don't have a leader. They don't have a name. I'm annoyed as all hell that they don't at least give them a name, because I'm sick and tired of writing on all the different things I have to write. That something like so-and-so, like Robert Stone, was attacked by the mysterious quartet of people that we don't know the name of, but they're Dion Lennox and Osiris Griffin and Cutler James and Saquon Sugars. And it's like, man, I want to just name them fucking, I don't know, the Quartet of Chaos or whatever the fuck you're going to call them, and just be like, them. It's a lot easier to type out. It's annoying as all hell.
I want a motive for them.
Yeah. And I thought that they were going to do the whole thing with Ricky Saints. Going to have to try to train myself to say that. But they didn't. Instead, he's babyface. So now what? Who the fuck's pulling the strings on these people now?
Maybe that's where Malachi Black comes in.
No, he's got to be on SmackDown, right?
I would assume, but you never know.
I mean, looking at the roster, it's like it's not going to be Andre Chase, who is just going to redo Chase University with Kel Dixon and Uriah Connors for sure. It's not like it's like going to be Ethan Page doing that. Certainly not just going to out of nowhere be like, that's what's happening with Malik Blade. Or, Hank Walker turned and Dante Chen is the leader, or like any of those. So it's like, there's nobody that stands out to me as being the obvious leader of this group, unless it's maybe Eddie Thorpe.
I was going to say Eddie Thorpe.
But even that is like, I don't see the connection to him being the leader there.
Well, they're all a bunch of people. Like, so like, the one who throws me off is Lennox, because he was actually featured. And it's like, okay, what is your beef? Because if it's Eddie Thorpe leading a group of disgruntled level up people. I get it. Because, hey, I was there. Like, they don't see me as somebody worth giving a shot to. I can see that. And then especially if they help him win the title. It's just give them a name, give them a motive.
Well, future thing to come back to whenever they name them. I have one other hot tag written down. That's Collision spoilers. Are we forgetting anything else?
I will quickly run through a little bit of what happened on tonight's episode of TNA Impact. So Joe Hendry kicked off the show. He gets interrupted by the Clones, Primo and Epico. And by the way, they're live in Full Sail. And they're talking like how we're the Clones and we are Legacy and we are TNA now. And Joe Hendry's obviously armed with a guitar and he's ready to hit one of them. And I believe it was Orlando Colon, Epico, who said, you better use that wisely because you've only got one guitar, two of us. Lights go out, you hear the strum of the former Elias's guitar, Elijah, and people go nuts, because of course they do, and a tag match gets made. So that's your main event of the evening, the big TNA episode, Full Sail. Really, well, I guess there's nothing else there, really. Really quickly, Elijah gets the pin on one of the Colognes with a tombstone. He just celebrates with Joe Hendry. Nothing major there. Some major developments were Cora Jade came out and attacked Masha again. She's going to challenge for the TNA Knockouts title at TNA Sacrifice. Wesley, Tyson DuPont, and Tyreek Igwe will be against Ace Austin and the Rascals at Sacrifice. And probably the big one, Leon Slater defeated JDC in an ODQ. He gets jumped by the system afterwards. The Hardys come out to save him. And then Obafemi comes out and cleans house. Next week it's the Hardys and Obafemi against Brian Meyer, Eddie Edwards, and Moose. Which is pretty cool, you know? Like, there's the NXT champion teaming with the Hardys on TNA programming. But I think those were the major talking points.
So that NXT crossover and everything, for anybody that's more into the TNA side of things, always wants us to talk about more. There you go. We got a little bit extra TNA this episode. And then we have the spoilers for Collision that'll air at this point tomorrow. For anybody who wants to know any of that, there was an open challenge. Max Caster gets beaten by Brody King.
Ooh.
Mariah May attacks Timeless Tony Storm, and apparently they're going to have another match at Revolution.
Okay, realistically, this should be a Hollywood Backlot brawl.
Yeah, they should do something fun like that. They probably won't. It'll just be a match.
Because, like, Tony Storm's doing the whole Hollywood thing, and by the way, the funniest raunchy promo I've ever heard from her on Dynamite, where she's just like, I railed you. They say the good things come in small packages, but I railed you with my big package. Like, fantastic she is.
After the promo, apparently Okada just issues like a challenge to any other bitch.
I love that phrasing.
Hologram beats Beast Mortos. Harley Cameron cuts a promo. I don't know about what. Julia Hart beats Queen Aminata. Death Riders retain the trios titles over Cool Hand Ange, Daddy Magic, and Daniel Garcia. Murder Machines were supposed to call out the Hurt Syndicate, but they end up just beating two local jobbers.
They probably cut a promo.
Gabe Kidd beats the Butcher, so now we understand why they were advertising it as Gabe Kidd is going to appear, as opposed to this is the match that he's going to have. And Jericho retained the ROH World title over Bandito.
So a couple of things stand out there for me. One, let's talk about Death Riders retain, because I know that there's also a bit there where Undisputed Kingdom runs out to make the save after the match, and then Cope runs out to make the save, and gets even on Pac. Even Undisputed Era bias aside, what? Why haven't these guys been doing anything? I don't want to hear the lame ass excuse that it's not 5 years ago. All right, that doesn't fly with me when, as much as I love him, Edge is in the main event and Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are the tag champions. Don't hit me with the it's not 5 years ago. Get over the Undisputed Era. No. Why aren't they at least the trios champions having random matches?
Yeah, it's weird that they're not at least like holding the trios titles and keeping themselves busy that way. Why is it all on the Death Riders?
I'm hoping that the fact that they came out to make the save means they're going to win the titles at Revolution.
We're gonna have to see. They haven't announced a match yet, so maybe. Collision is not a show that I watch all that much, so one of the things I was curious about is like, is Daniel Garcia doing anything?
Oh, so
is he only on Collision? Is that why I never see him anywhere?
I'm okay with that though, because it's the TNT title and it's the show on TNT.
Makes sense.
He's been in this 3-on-3-on-3 feud with the Undisputed Kingdom, and Shane Taylor Promotions was involved for a while. And the weird story being told is Kingdom all want to be TNT champion, even though every single time it's just Kyle who's like, yeah, TNT champion would be kind of cool. I don't know, because it's hard because again, such a strong bias, but I want them to be doing something. I'm tired of my favorites being squandered, and I feel like I feel very comfortable to say this on this podcast because, you know, this is the Chill podcast, and look, I don't do the fanboy stuff a lot, but it is annoying when I am a fanboy for somebody and they just lose and lose and lose, like, or like, even, dude, I can't even get why are we nearly 2 years into Edge in AEW and we haven't gotten a Christian tag match? Like, what are we doing here? you know, like, it's the same thing I feel with the Undisputed Kingdom, where it's like, guys, you literally have trios titles. Can we use them while they can still go? Because Roddy's, a seasoned vet. Adam Cole broke his foot getting off of a ramp, and Kyle O'Reilly lost feeling in his arm. The fact that they can still go at the pace that they can is a miracle. Can we use them as such? I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm not saying put every single title on them. I just want to see them win something.
Yeah.
And by the way, where the fuck are Mike Bennett and Pat David?
Yeah, they just completely decided, like, yeah, you're not a part of that.
Weird.
Very weird. I think that's it for the hot tags, right?
I can't. Fun off the wall conversation. Like, this is a completely off the wall conversation, but it's one of the most fun that I've had with you that we've recorded.
Ever, or just recently?
At least within the last 3 years.
Well, hopefully you all enjoyed it, everybody. Leave us your comments below. Tell us what you thought about not only this podcast, but all the topics that we were talking about. And anything else that we missed out on. If you are, really want our opinions about any of that stuff, you let us know. We'll try to leave a comment or carry it over into next week or something.
You want us to do an episode about what wrestler would make the best James Bond? Is The Rock's announcement that he's going to be James Bond?
If you want me to do the Pokemon thing, yeah, that's another thing too. So just keep all that stuff in mind. And if you enjoyed this, hit the like button. Consider tossing a little spare change our way.
Would the Rock's gun barrel be too pointy?
I think you'd probably end up having too many of the Ulafala points, and it'd be too pointy on that way. Yeah. So if you want to follow all that stuff, though, go to amangotree.com. You'll see Fanboys Anonymous links. You'll see Smark Moment links. You'll see my links. And you have to go over to dudefelice.com if you want to find the stuff for Rob.
Yeah, you can go over to dudefelice.com. You can check out my stuff on Fightful.com. Like I said, subscribe to Fightful Select. I was joking around earlier about, like, you know, this Patreon versus that one. But honestly, Sean Ross Sapp does so much. And it really does mean a lot when people show their support that way instead of just ripping it off of a bootleg aggregate. You know, like, support some of the people in wrestling doing real journalism. We do the funsies over here, but I will be honest and say that Sean is one of the few people doing serious work, and that should be support. And like I said, follow me over at Dude Felice. We love Callum. We miss Callum. Check him out at Wigmaster14.
Callum will be here when he's feeling ready too. I'm not going to rush anything like that. So yeah, show him some love.
And we love you.
We do. We love you. You love we. We are a family.
And we love we.
And that brings us back around to 69.
Yeah, there you go. And I told you I was a zero, and you've listened to me anyway.
One of the few things I pride myself on is being able to go full circle and call back a joke. Something I think I picked up somewhere along the way, and I'm proud of it. And there's not much.
And I'm full circle because I'm that big fan zero.
Oh, everybody, I don't know what's happening the next time around. I think we're going to probably come back with the Elimination Chamber predictions.
Elimination Chamber predictions.
Yeah. So in the meantime, if there is anything else, we'll see you then. And adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.